Okay, so a quick 5-minute overview. I'll actually change it to like 1-minute overview because we're just running a little bit behind. So I'm a teacher at Mark Oliphant College. I teach computer gaming in Year 11, Year 12. It's a real subject, it's not fake. Where I teach students how to create computer games from scratch that they've never had any experience in programming before. I also do 3D animation and 3D modelling with Maya, which is what they use on Toy Story and all those animated flicks, and that's related with games as well. I'm not going to do a quick who are you. I guess I'll hopefully meet a lot of you as we go. My Twitter handle is Aussie Learning, so you can find me on there. Tech issues, I think I've tried to cover as quickly as I could. Greenfoot is a free program on Mac and Windows. Okay, so you can grab it from for whatever version you use. So it's completely free. There's no added on costs after you install it or anything like that. It's freeware. And post session we'll hopefully do like a bit of a share. Okay. So what I'm going to do is probably flick between this slideshow and Greenfoot at the same time and go from there. Show you how to go from scratch. We'll create a really basic game, okay, that you can get working straight away this session, and then from there, we'll explore about what else you can do. If I have time, I'll show you some of my student example work from the iPad, but yeah, that's if we've got time. Okay. So this is what the interface is going to look like, but I might as well just load up the program straight away. So, let me close this. Okay. Normally when you open up Greenfoot, you'll get the first time you do it, you get a little grey box and it'll give you a whole bunch of options about, do you want to create a new scenario, do you want to start up a new scenario. Sometimes if you've done something in the past like I have, it'll come up with whatever's already finished. Just so we're all on the same page, I'll get you to open up Greenfoot. Now if you've got that little grey box, you can click on that and go create new scenario. If you don't have that, up the top left, we'll look up here, I'll go scenario and new. If I completely lose, like, let's say 4 or 5 people, then I might stop. But if you're just behind and there's someone that you can see that can help you out, just do a bit of a, collaboration with them. So we're going to put our scenario on the desktop. This will look a little bit different if you're using Windows, okay? But I'm hoping that you can ask someone how to pop it on. So I'm just going to pop mine onto my desktop. Okay. Users and desktop. Okay. All right.
Emil, where is it on yours?
Oh, just go to Spotlight. Oh yeah, that's right. You know Mac user. Greenfoot. Alright, and if you go to scenario new, you'll be all good. Okay. Alright, so then just call it, let's say whatever you want to call it, my first game. Something like that. Okay, and hit create. And what will happen is sometimes things will disappear and look like nothing's happening, but what you should get is this sort of blank box. So I really didn't go into what Greenfoot's all about, but I'll just do that briefly before we get really stuck in. So Greenfoot is a program that introduces Java programming to students, I guess from any year level really. I targeted this session for high school, but you could apply this to primary school, I think as well. It uses like a very visual interface initially, but then kids actually learn how to code pretty quick. Now I taught this to year 11s and year 12s that had zero minimal programming skills at all, and their maths skills were very low as well. Okay. So is everyone sort of semi here? Yep. Okay. All right. Most people. I shouldn't say everyone because there's always a few, and then I'm like, oh crap, now I've got the answer. No, it's not like Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a game where you have a character that has to collect something and avoid being eaten by an enemy at the same time. Okay, that's the basic premise for the game that we're creating. On the slideshow here, this is sort of like a rough look at the interface. Okay, the world is everything that appears in your world. We'll talk a little bit about these things called classes and objects. And we'll go from there. Okay, so first things first, we want a background for our character to be on. So if you could right click on world, oops, I should stop doing that. I get a bit addicted to the zooming. And go new subclass. Okay, so right click on world and click on new subclass. Alright, so we're putting a background, okay, for our world. Now you get a whole bunch of pre-made templates, okay, that you can use. So I might go and be boring and pick something like sand, okay. Now when you name your class, a good, I guess, skill to get into is just calling it with a capital letter at the beginning. So I'm going to call it sand world. If you haven't and you pressed OK or whatever, that's fine for now. Okay. And I'm going to press OK and you'll get something like this, okay. Nothing's happened, but I've got my little sand world up. When you get little, see those crosses through here? It just means that Greenfoot hasn't compiled what you've done. Now compile is like a nerdy type speak to say, I haven't put everything together yet. Okay, so you've put it in, but I sort of need to stitch it all up. So if you press the compile button, okay, give it a few seconds, you'll get your background. Now you might have picked space or whatever you might have picked, so I don't mind what you've chosen. Okay, that's cool. Now let's put in some characters and get them moving, because that's really sort of the fun for it. Now on the right hand side is where our objects for the world go, okay? But what Greenfoot comes with, I guess to introduce and help make programming really comfortable for students, is it gives you a few already done tools that kids can use, okay? So we're going to implement one of those tools. If I click on actor here, okay, so I've highlighted it, and then up the top you have an edit button, okay, and then you'll see import class, okay, and if you click on that, I get a few different classes. Now I'm going to import the animal class, and basically it's written, some of the programming was written by Michael Colling. He's the guy that actually co-created Greenfoot, which gives us some nice things such as you know, eating and things like that. So it's already got a bit of code written for the students, which is really important to get them sort of quickly engaged and moving. So once you've done that, that's fine. Okay, you don't have to press compile at the moment. The next thing is, let's add a character. Okay, so now I'm going to right click on my animal, and just like I added a world, I'm actually going to add, so you go to new subclass down there. Okay, I'm going to add an animal into my game. Okay, now the only thing I would suggest is don't pick anything super large like the alligator. So you're gonna control this animal. Okay, so pick something that you want to control. Okay, and that animal is going to be collecting something else, so it could be food or whatever. Now the example that they use with Greenfoot on this first one that I'm running you through is a turtle eating lettuce, and I think it's running away from a lobster. I don't know why, but so I'm actually going to be a frog this time. Okay, all right. And you can see here that I'll probably end up trying to collect flies, but you know, you could be whatever. You could be a hippo trying to eat hedgehog. Press OK. Okay, and then I'm going to press the compile button. Alright. Okay, so now I've got my game here. I've got nothing on there, but I'm going to actually place my frog in here, okay? And you know, because I want it moving. So if I right click on my frog, okay, I should see new frog. Now if you don't see that, it probably means that you haven't pressed the compile button. Okay. So new frog, and once I press new frog, I can now pop it onto the screen. No, it's not happening. Thank you. Okay, so I've got a frog on the screen. Okay, I can left click and move it around. Okay, but really I don't think it actually does anything. So if I press run, okay, the frog's not moving. Now we're going to put our first bit of code in to actually get this frog moving. So I double click on frog. Alright, oops, I'll do that again, apologies. Okay, so if I double click on frog, I get into the brain of the frog. That's how I first explain it to the kids. I go, okay, you've got an empty frog, it knows nothing. Okay, you've got to start filling it up with stuff. So when I double click in here, I tell the kids, don't worry about all this code. The main thing that you need to know is initially, whatever you want your frog to do, we're going to actually type it in here. Okay, so if I highlight what's already written in here, okay, that's just a bit of commenting. I'm going to give my frog the first command, okay, and it's going to be simple. I'm just going to tell it to move, all right, and then with the move command, I've got to tell it how fast it should move, okay. So I might go 4, and now that 4, if anyone's teaches computer graphics or Photoshop or things like that, it basically means it's moving like 4 pixels per second across the screen, but you'll see. Okay, so that's how you have to write the move command, okay, with the little semicolon, lowercase m, brackets like that, move, alright? If I press compile, it should nicely compile, and I'll just be careful as well, I guess. Sometimes you can accidentally close the screen behind. You can actually, if you've got room on your screen, you can put that to the side, you can leave it open. So now if I right click on new frog, and I place it in here, and I press run, my frog should move across the screen. Okay, and if I put more frogs on, they will also move. Okay, so they go right to left. If you've got that working and you've never done Java programming, then you've just done some Java programming. Okay, so you can tick that off your bucket list of things if you've ever wanted to do that. And next thing I tell the kids is, okay, change the number. Okay, so instead of 4, I'm going to change it to 20. I'm going to press the compile button again. I'm going to put a frog on. I'm going to see what happens. Well, okay, it moves really fast. If you want to, shift. Okay. So the frogs are moving really fast. Is everyone okay with that? Yep, sort of semi, no? No, not moving? Frogs aren't moving? I'll quickly, okay, so go compile. Okay, and you've got a little error. Semicolon, now press compile. Okay, go back to your game, just move that screen out of the way. Okay, if you've got errors, I'm going to pause just for a second to sort of like show you things that could go wrong, and then we'll continue on. We're doing alright for time. We've got another 25 minutes, so I'm going to really push it. Things that you could forget to do, okay, if I get rid of that semicolon and I accidentally press compile now, it's going to go, oh, you've got an error. And sometimes it gives you a nice little clue down the bottom. It'll say, oh, that was expected at the end. Or if I put a capital M, okay, and I go compile, oh, okay, whoops, it's an error again, cannot find symbol. Maybe you meant move, lowercase, okay, so that's really cool. Gives you another clue again. All right. Okay, now, how did I know what that move command to use that? That all comes from the documentation, okay? And so this is where I quickly introduce kids to the documentation. If I double click on actor, okay, if you go back to here, okay, if you double click on actor, it should, even if you're not on the net on your laptops, open up to this. And if this doesn't open, that's cool. This is basically like the documentation behind Greenfoot that you can use, okay? So I go to the kids and I say to them, okay, where did we use move? And they'll go, oh, actually, you had move here. I go, okay, cool. And he goes, move this actor the specified distance in the direction it's currently facing, so it's always left to right. I go, all right, how do we make the turtle, in my case the frog, how do we make it turn? And then we'll scroll down here and we'll go, oh, actually there's a turn command, okay? This is where I sometimes tell them, I go, well, int actually just stands for integer, and that's a whole number. And sometimes I've got that stuck up on the board. So for the kids that aren't maths inclined, all I do is I just tell them, look, an int, shorthand for integer, that's a whole number. And generally, even those that hate maths, you know, they're cool with that because they want to get their game going, okay? So turn command, all right. So let's go back to my frog, okay? No prizes for this, but if I go, let's say, change it back to 4 so it's a bit slower, and I put in the turn, okay? And it was like, I think the number in here, which is technical speak parameter, was degrees. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to test it out. So my frog should move and turn at the same time. Okay, so now I've got a frog that's turning and doing that spinny thing. Okay, so I'll let the kids again go and explore, change the numbers around, compile, see what happens. Okay, this is where some of them start to, they might do a bit of their own exploring. The ones that are a little bit, I guess, independent, they'll double click back in here and they go, oh, what else can I test out? And they'll break and it won't work. But it's an initial great way just to get them engaged, okay? Believe me, this looks like pretty rudimentary, but for a kid that's never done programming and they can see something happening, they're instantly, most of them are hooked. Okay, I'm sort of going off track on the thing, so we've done that. Okay, shift, command, move, combining the two, which we've covered. Okay, not enemies yet, basic food. Okay, so we're going to put a bit of food for our frog to eat now. Now, in this case, right, one thing that I want to show you is that these arrows, okay? So it's basically, it's like an is-a statement. So the frog is an animal and it belongs to actor. All the objects in green will all come derived from actor anyway. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to add under my animal class is a fly for my frog to eat. So I'm going to go right click animal and I'm going to go new subclass. I'm going to click on animals. I'm going to scroll down here till I find fly. Okay. Now if you've picked another type of animal, that's fine. You just have to choose what it's going to eat. So this is going to be the food. There's my fly. Okay. Alright, and if I press compile, it should be fine. Okay, right click. Cool, that's my fly. Now I'll just teach you a few little tricks. Okay. When it's not running, so nothing's running at the moment, I want to add multiple flies for this frog to hunt. If I have this highlighted and hold down the shift key, I can now sort of just drop flies a lot easier than having to go back and right click, okay? The other thing as well is you'll notice every time you press compile, things disappear, okay? Which can be really annoying. So in this case, I'm going to show you how to save it, okay? So we've got our setup, so I'm going to place my frog as well. So my frog's, I'm going to make him start here. Okay, I'm going to right click and go save the world, okay? Not literally, but just green foot save the world. Okay, this box will come up. Some of you might, pick up and go, oh, actually, that's in your sand world, which you created before earlier. It is. All it's done by clicking on that, it's written this code for me automatically. Okay. So occasionally, sometimes depends on what type of class I've got. I'll say to them, oh, look at these funny numbers here. Okay. What do you reckon they might be part of? Anyone here? What do you reckon they are? Coordinates. Yeah, coordinates. Yep. That's exactly what they are. They're the coordinates, so X and Y. What you can start to do with the kids is get into a little bit more maths without telling them it's maths. That's really important. Don't tell them what you're doing. So if you right click on a fly and go inspect, okay, Cool, I've got the X and the Y. Okay, ignore all that for now. Okay, what if I then, what's neat as well, this stays over the top. What if I start to move my fly across? Okay, I teach in a Category 1 school, Mark Oliphant College, so most of my kids did not know where the X and Y, how it fit on the plane. So that, I was like, okay, so now X is that way and Y is that way. These are year 11 students I'm talking, so you can, the literacy, when I say the maths and skills are extremely low. So then you can find where 0, 0 is. In the case of Greenfield, it's actually the top left, okay? But anyway, and you can test out other ones, okay? So it's great for the kids to pick that up from there. Okay, so now when I hit compile, everything should stay on the screen. Hopefully yours is, okay? And you've got your food staying still. Okay. All right. Now we're going to get an enemy in for our, in my case, frog. I don't know what you guys have picked. So if I click on animal again, okay, left click, make sure it's highlighted, puts a little box. Right click on it and go new subclass. I'm going to give my frog an enemy to fight against. Okay. Any ideas? Lizard? Yeah, why not? Do lizards eat frogs? I guess maybe.
They do now.
They do now. That's right. You're making a game. You can do whatever you want. Okay. So I'm going to pop my lizard onto the screen. Okay. He's going to be the enemy, and he's going to try to get me. And now that I've popped him in, if I press compile, he's going to disappear. Okay, because I haven't resaved the world with him. So I'm just going to make sure I do that. So I've popped him in, and I'm going to go save the world, and now he won't disappear. Okay, now let's put some code into him. So double click into your lizard. Alright, I'm going to teach you a few new lines of code now. Okay, so I've got my lizard there, and I know I'm in his class. I can see public class lizard. Okay, first I'm going to get my lizard moving. Okay. Now he needs to be a little bit automatic though. He needs to, move around, just I guess like a computer would. So I'm going to create what's called an if statement. An if statement basically takes, if something is true, then do something else. Okay. Now in my case, I want him moving, but whenever he hits the edge of a wall, I want him to turn around, keep moving, and go bounce off another edge. So he's basically going to keep bouncing around, being really annoying to me while I'm trying to collect the flies. Okay, so I'm going to put an if statement, and it's written a bit like this. Okay, and I'm going to use. Now I'll pause in a second, and if you can copy that down, that would be great. Okay, and I'm going to put another squiggly bracket. Oops, can't spell. Actually make it 45 degrees. Okay. So while you're writing that down, I'm going to just tell you a few different things. This is how generally if statements are written. Okay, you start it with if, and you start it with a bracket. You put whatever your condition is at world edge. I'll show you where I knew how to write this. There's no condition in there, and then ends it with a bracket. Okay, each opening bracket. So that one there, see how it's opening? It's got a closing bracket as well. That one's opening, that one's got a close. Then you put in what you want to happen, and in this case I want it to turn, but you use these brackets. So there's my open and there's my close. Greenfoot's really nice. If you mess up, right, okay, like that, it sort of, or for one, the colours move around, and it sort of gives you an indicator. Things start to go a little bit weird. And then it neatens out. And if you make a mistake, it's great, because then, you can always go back and fix it. Okay, cool, I've compiled it. And I'm going to go back here and compile my little world. Okay, where did I find at world edge? Okay, if I double click into actor, it actually wasn't in here. Okay, you're not going to find it in there. But the guys that started this program up, they help you out by putting an animal class. Remember when we imported originally? Now if I double click on that, okay, you'll get all this weird code. It looks pretty freaky. Up the top right, you've got source code and documentation. If I click on documentation, okay, and scroll down, this is some of the stuff that they've already written for you to use. And that's what I tell the students. I go, you can actually write your own code to make something bounce around corners, but initially when you're getting started, you can actually use some of the code that they've done. And so they've got a method in here called at world edge, and it tests to see if you're close to the edge of the world. Okay, we're going to use these as well later, the can see and the eat, and the added move in there as well. But some of the kids that are really gung-ho and they start to go for it, they'll go to the source code and they'll actually start to look at what makes that detect an edge. And so they'll get into this stuff, which is, you know, a little bit more ahead. It's all about X and Y coordinates and things like that. But, you know, for others, that's fine. So I've got that. Let's just test it, see what happens. Okay. Oh, that's right. He's moving 45, so he's not going to really, he's going to keep going back and forth. That's pretty crap. So let's just change that to something else. Okay, compile again, run. No, smaller, yeah. Oh, I didn't. I'm just going to change it. So this is good troubleshooting with the kids as well, you know. So now I've changed it to like 2 degrees and he's doing his thing. I've got my crazy frog, so it's like a Pink Floyd album video, I don't know. You could, so from there, now I've got my character. I can't control him yet, so I don't have keyboard control, but I've got flies that he's going to eat, and I've got a lizard, okay, as well, that's going to try to get me. How are we going? We're going okay? Okay. Sort of? No, not really. People have got problems with their game. Okay, if you're lost, I'm going to really push it hard, and in the last 5 minutes, instead of doing like a debrief, I'll come around and try to get yours going. Okay? Right, so let's make the enemy try to eat us. Okay? Now if I go back to my animal class and go to the documentation, I notice this, okay? It says here, return true if we can see an object, and okay, I might need that. So if my lizard can see the frog, and then if it can see it, I want it to eat it. So basically make it disappear, all right? Now this stuff in here in the middle is important, but I'm sort of skipping over it real quick just due to time. It's referring to saying, tell me what the class is that you want me to see, and then tell me what the class is that you want me to eat. Okay? Alright, and in our case, if I go back to here, I'm going to have this up. I'm going to create another if statement. You can just, okay, and I'm going to say, can you see, alright, can you see the frog? Okay. Yep, you can. If you can see it, then I want you to eat it. So I'm using the eat. And that's my whole if statement. So, can I see the frog? Okay, so remember if statements always have like brackets on the outer edge. And then in here, I know that it actually needs brackets to say, well, you know, what are you looking for? And in my case, I'm looking for the frog. Yep, I can see the frog. Okay, I want to eat it. Alright, so go back to our game, compile it. Actually, this will be really annoying to test it, so I'm going to... Okay, it's gone. Alright, cool. I know it's working. Yep. All right, so now the lizard is eating the frog, which is great. Okay, the last thing that I probably want, there's a whole bunch of other stuff I wanted to cover, but just time. Let's have a look here. Random behavior. Don't know if we'll have time for that. The last thing I want you to have control of is what? So what doesn't our game have at the moment? Anyone?
Keyboard control.
Keyboard control. Like, how do we actually control our frog to go ahead and start eating these flies? Okay, so I'm going to go to frog. This is normally where I'd annoy the kids and I'll tell them, okay, I've taught you if statements, now you go away and see if you can figure it out. And then I go, oh, we don't know where to look. I go, wait a minute, why don't you just go and have a look in the actor class? Is there something in here that you can use possibly? And then I'll start looking. And I tricked them because it's not in here. Sorry. It's in my world. Okay. Go back. So this is the whole directory of everything. So I'll tell them, we've had a look at actor, world you can have a look. How about Greenfoot? And so we'll scroll down here. And then eventually, we'll get to this. Check whether a given key is currently pressed down. And that sounds about what we want. So every time I press a key, I want Greenfoot to know I've pressed a key and then I can tell it to do something. Alright? So I'm going to use that is key down. And it's really important that I tell the kids, I go, because it's got a capital K, you've got to make sure it's capital. And because it's got a capital D, make sure you're using a capital. Okay? So, alright. We're going to use is key down. So I'm going to come back to here, go back to my, no, I don't want my lizard, I want my frog. Alright, so, okay, in this case though, you've got to start, because is key down was a method within Greenfoot, like that one, you've got to start with Greenfoot dot. You'll be surprised, the kids start to, they don't care that it has to be like that. They just start to remember and point out from there. So is my key down? I'm going to use my left arrow key for my game. Okay, so in that case, I type in left. Okay. If you wanted to use a letter for your game, you could just put in, but you've got to have these semicolons and the green lights up telling you that it is. Okay, so when my left key is pressed, I want my frog to turn, okay? I also guess I don't need this anymore, because I'm going to control that. Okay, so that's the end of my left key, and now I'm going to do exactly the same. But I'm going to change it to my right arrow, okay? Okay, anyone see the mistake that I've made? Yep, so I've got it turning, okay, one way, but if I want it to turn the other way, okay, I'm gonna stick a minus at the front, all right? I generally purposely make a mistake and the kids then are like, oh, this game's crap, turning the both way, I'm right here. I'm like, oh, well, you have to figure it out. And then they eventually do, because, they want their game to work. All right, let's test this out. Woohoo, okay. All right, basic rudimentary control. It's moving all the time, and I can control it. Just not get eaten by lizard. I'll try it. Okay. I'm trying to get actually that the lizard will eat me, but okay, there we go. All right, the last thing that I haven't done is to collect the flies, okay? So I'll go back to, and it's exactly the same. It was can see, and I think it was fly, okay, whoops. And if I can see a fly, then I want to be able to eat it, okay? compile. I'm going to go back to here, and now I'm going to test out my finished game. Oh crap, lost. That's bad. Okay, there you go. So, with about 3 minutes to spare, there was a whole bunch of other stuff I wanted to show you, but that gives you a quick game in under 40 minutes. I think we did well. I might have left some people behind, but that's why I'll spend the next 2 or 3 minutes, if you want, for me to come around real quick and try to debug. If you get errors, it might just be that you've left a semicolon out or something else. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed my presentation. Thank you for coming. If you want to get a copy of this, okay, it's here, and that's the URL you need, and I'll pop in my email so you can get a hold of me, maybe my work one, so it's probably, check that fairly often. Okay, so that's my work email. If you want to get a copy of the slideshow, it's not very intensive, but what it does have at the end of the slideshow is a bunch of resources, links. Okay, just copy that hyperlink down. Make sure you put a K, capital K and a capital G. So that's the shorthand. Up here, I'll leave this on the screen because I know people are copying it. Up here I've got a few links which are basically the same as the resources page that I've linked you to. Okay, so yeah, thank you for coming, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself and had a good session. Tweet about it, I guess. Yeah. All right.
On behalf of Cegsa, we'd also like to thank you.
No worries.
Okay, and there's collector's item.
Thank you very much. That's always useful. People steal these always.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
I'm sure everyone's enjoyed the tours today.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers. I love to collaborate with people that are thinking about starting game curriculum at school, be it in literacy or be it more in this actually making game stuff. And my kids do a lot of that. So if you email me, there's not a lot of us doing it in South Australia. It's a great way for us to begin to build some type of network, and I can share you, I can discuss to you how I created my stage 2 LAP, my stage 1 LAP for the SACE board, and then from there we can sort of look at, well, could you do this with year 8s? And that's definitely a big yes. And could you do it with primary school kids? I think so. So yeah.
Could I just ask, you're saying you're doing some year 11s, you don't obviously spend a whole semester doing just on this. What else do you
so we create sound effects. We also, so the course is where kids, I get a sound engineer to come out, and I say to them, well, a big part of, because in Greenfoot you can add sound effects in there. Okay, so as part of my course, the kids I get a sound engineer out, and they actually spend 3 weeks making sound effects, and then they professionally record them and they put them into their Greenfoot game. They also spend time writing a script and a story. We'll look at, we'll do a little bit of, I guess, a SOCI type part where we look at issues around computer games and those types of things, and breaking down things that they are part of. Because I was talking about someone else, we did behind the news as primary school kids all the time, but we never tend to look at games now and talk to kids about what they're actually playing and interacting with. And I think it's important, because to have that dialogue with an adult teacher about some of the stuff that they're controlling, which has got morals, good and right, bad, is really important. I've got examples, if this works real quick. I lied, I said I'd come around and help people, but I'm not doing that, am I? Don't know if this will kick in. Let's see. Come on, iPad.
Just while everyone's doing that, can we also make sure that everyone's signed the sheet that's going around, the registration sheet? Has anyone not signed that?
Don't know if this is going to come up, unfortunately.
Lyndon Edwards, Jenny Fraser.
Nope, that's
Sarah,
one.
have you?
Yeah.
So is the main focus also to create a game and everything to structure around that?
Yeah, generally the final assignment is to actually make a working full game, and then that sort of ties everything in. So they've created the sound effects, they've obviously done mini tasks just to tick off that they can get their game. Then they work as a team, generally team them up, because creating a game, at the end of it, sometimes you're going to have kids that are still not interested in programming, which is fine, but they might be really good musicians, which happened with some of my year 11s, and that guy actually ended up doing the sound and the sound effects for the game that they created. He still did the intro to programming, but it was more or less like, how do you engage kids in this type of area, computer science type area, get them at least exposed to programming, and then from there, whether they choose to go into it as a career or not, at least they've had a pretty good experience of learning in general, which then hopefully stimulates them for other things that they might do. So that's how I was part of the Leading Schools program of High Tech High, which is a school in San Diego, and they do a lot of project-based learning at that school. So I visited San Diego a few times, and tying in a lot of learning areas is sort of where we really try to push it with the kids. And so creating computer games is generally a pretty big in, so yeah.
Why did you go for Greenfield instead of Codil or something like that?
Yep. So I put a few Scratch, Codil, a few others. Greenfield I was sort of exposed to over in the States, and I like the fact that I've got a textbook here of it somewhere. I like the fact that you can pass that around, that it is programming, pure programming, writing code, but it's not completely way abstract, because when you, let's say, I guess when you go to uni and things, they just give you a blank notepad and you don't see anything for ages. Well, this is instantly within, we did it in 30 minutes. You could see characters moving based on the code that you wrote. And if you wrote a mistake, it's brutal. It will tell you, can't work, bad luck. And so it's got the incentive of you can see what you want to happen, and you've got to write the code in properly. Java, this is the other reason, Java is a language that once kids get into it and learn it, they can really use it for anything that they go on to in the future. So it's a language that is quite transferable to other programming languages. And yeah, they were the main type of reasons why. And it's free. Mac and Windows, it's pretty small. You don't have to have a crazy big computer to run it. Some of the games, this was another big reason. Here, this is the Greenfield website, right? If you go onto it, they have this, are we out of time? Oh, oops, I've unplugged it. Yeah, you can't see that. The Greenfield program, in your program, you'll see at the top like scenario or sharing or something like that. You can actually share out your games that you make straight onto the Greenfield website for other people to play. And kids love that. They're like, oh, my game's up on the website and I've had three hits on it, or whatever it is, So, like I guess Mark was referring to, the whole point of all this is to make sure that if I go here, the whole point of all this is kids get an audience, right? So these are games that other kids have made, okay? And some of them are like really, really good, okay? They are high quality, Super Mario World. That's the other task that kids do. So we create sound effects. They also create their own little drawings. Little pixels, so on Photoshop, you can create like a little image and put that into Greenfield, and kids love that, right? One kid tried to draw me, and then like I was the enemy trying to, anyway, but, so the scenarios you can share straight from Greenfield onto the website.
Can you share them on blogging sites and things like that?
Yeah, you can. I'm pretty sure you can embed what you've shared then onto another site. If not, I guess it doesn't really matter, because if on your blogging site you just link to your scenario, there it is, okay? This won't run at the moment because I don't have Java on this browser on Chrome, but it will run off Safari. What's cool as well is some people, when they share their game, they let you open it up in Greenfoot so you can actually test it out. I'll say, oh, that's a big one. It's going to take a little while. But anyway, what's cool is you can see how many hits you've got, how many votes, and then you get a discussion. So kids then start discussing with other kids from around the world about their game. So here you've got, it's great but runs slightly slow. Maybe that's because of your internet connection, faster speed, da, da, da. And so you start to get this dialogue between kids on the products that they've made with other students, not even people in your class. So yeah, as part of that Leading Schools program, we had to create a book. So I've documented all my journey, I guess, with creating this course. So I've got that on. It's not on the iBook store yet, but it eventually will be. So yeah, hopefully, if you've got any of my USBs, I think I'm missing a few. Just pop them over here, red and blue. But look. Love to discuss this further with you if I get a chance. I'll be here tomorrow as well, so please stop me and we can continue talking. But yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you. Cheers. Thanks. All right.